Welcome to Association Chat, where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I am so excited to talk about this topic today because story is hot. If you are asking yourself the question of why am I doing this thing? Why do I care about XYZ? Chances are you're telling yourself a story about why you should care, or you're looking for that story. And story is the way that we have learned and compelled action for forever. So today, when we start talking about things like sales and marketing, we need to start asking ourselves about stories. When it comes to sales and marketing, logic doesn't move people, stories do. Our guest today, James Ontra, has been helping clients in every industry refine their stories for over 20 years. Today, he's going to share with us the insights he's learned over his extensive career. So you and I and all of us who come across this information can craft a narrative that connects with your members and creates action. Action. Yes, James. Hi.
Hi, how are you? It's good to be
I'm
here.
doing
Thank you,
well.
Kiki.
I'm so glad that you're here. It is something that I think we've all been really interested in finding out more about. Last week we had Tamsin Webster on, and she was sharing about the red thread and following this sort of through line to get to the story. But today we're talking about better sales, and I know everyone's ears perk up with that. So, why are stories so important?
Stories are compelling. Stories help you communicate. Stories help people understand the situation in more depth than just telling them a bunch of words. And better storytelling means that your audience not only understands it, but they can repeat it. And if they can repeat it, you've created the basic virtue of what viral marketing is all about. Storytelling goes back to the beginning of communications, from cave drawings to every religious building had some sort of stained glass that are essentially slides to tell a message to the people coming through to understand what they're communicating. It didn't matter where they are. And storytelling has been so important all through the ages that, quite frankly, if you tell a good story, people will understand and convince better to what you're trying to communicate.
Now, how did you get involved in teaching people about storytelling? What's your connection to story?
Well, when I was about 4 years old and my room was a mess and my mother came in and said, "Who did it?" And I told her a green dragon flew in and it came and it knocked everything over, I knew what
That was,
storytelling was all about. That's a different story altogether. Professionally, it happened in the 1990s with CD-ROM technology, where they built CD-ROMs were a slideshow with words and images, and it was the first time it all came together in a multimedia environment. And I built a lot of them, and that was the work we'd done. And we went into presentations for some of the biggest companies like NBC and Epcot Center and Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines and British Petroleum, British Airways, and very big companies, because they wanted to have libraries of slides that allow them to tell stories. And this was the CD-ROM concept. And that's where I started working, and it worked out very well. The web came and kind of put them out of business, but the basic concepts of storytelling went on. I, myself and my sister, founded a company, and I was part of that CD-ROM company, and it grew up, and we did work for NBC, the Olympics. We did work for lots of big companies. I'll give you an example of storytelling from the Olympic sales presentation. They were discussing their marketing and how many people view the Olympics over a period of time, and NBC had just signed a huge deal for 10 years. And they were presenting how to get $1 billion sponsorship. And I'll just make up the name here, Coca-Cola. I'm not saying this is what was going on. And they were discussing what's the difference between a company like that giving $1 billion and $2 billion. And they said, well, it's how they're moved emotionally when they're making their decision. So they decided to let's give them the Carrie Scrugg video right before we ask. Carrie Scrugg, if you remember, was the vaulter on the horse who ran and did a perfect 10 and broke her ankle. While crying, standing there, she walked off, stood, did the same thing, got her 10 and collapsed. It's raising the hair on my neck right now.
I know, mine too.
That is storytelling.
Wow.
That's the difference between $1 billion and $2 billion sponsorship. That's why storytelling is ultra important in the corporate sales world. If you tell your story right, you will move your audience and you'll make a difference.
Well, that is such a key piece right there, though, because you said if you tell your story right. And I mean, I know that everyone who's listening to this has definitely done their time and sat in many boardrooms and conference halls watching PowerPoint presentations that seemed like they were not doing the right thing. They were not telling those stories the way that
Correct.
they should. So why are we so bad at it, James? Why?
Because we haven't managed the workflow of presentations. We haven't made it easy for the end user to do something critical. And this is the big change in presentations that's coming. And you do it every day. You don't even realize it right now. And that is that those boring presentations, that's where the presentation forces the conversation. If I was so smart that I knew exactly what we're talking about today, I would put 15 slides together and go from 1 to 2 to 3. And at slide 4, if you asked a question pertaining to slide 15, no, you got to sit and wait and let's blow that moment of communication away.
I'm going to
get to it.
That's
right.
We'll come. Yeah.
That's the presentation forcing the conversation, and no one likes to be forced conversation. In a presentation management world, you're not looking at 15 slides you're using for the next meeting. You have a published library of slides about your whole organization, who you are, what you do, how you do it, the history of the organization. Maybe there's a video about the founding. Maybe there's a video of the printing press or statements from your clients that are all relevant on slides, but you're never going to give all 200 slides about your company. But everyone in your organization, if they can pick those slides and reshuffle them into new stories, same slides, all compliant, same messaging, same scenes, your people in the field now can tell the story following the conversation. We can bring up a conversation and say, gosh, we have a London office. As fast as you say it, I pick up my cell phone and I pull out the picture, my London office, and I show you the picture.
Yeah.
That's a presentation following the conversation. Let me do an analogy that can be used in well, we used to be in restaurant bar situations yesteryear, but we might do that soon now.
Yeah.
I meet you at a restaurant and we're talking and you say, gee whiz, I'm planning a trip to Disney World. And I say, gosh, we were just at Disney World 3 weeks ago and I was on Space Mountain and I didn't know they included water, but I was soaked. Oh my God, let me show you the picture. And I start pulling up my pictures because I have pictures of me being soaked. And I pull up the slide and I show it to you. Yeah. I didn't know I was going to be bringing that slide, which is a presentation, up to reinforce the conversation. We were talking about Disney World. I remembered I had a picture in my photo album on my phone. I pulled it up to reinforce the conversation to say, hey, I'm connecting with you. I was there. You should try this too. Suddenly I'm storytelling. You go to Disney World and you look at your daughter and say, let's get soaked on Space Mountain. And she goes, no, there's no water on Space Mountain. But I have integrated a story into your everyday life and it carried on further.
Yeah.
That is where the presentation that's where storytelling's going.
So how do we get there? I mean, because, it's honestly, I would say that probably 99.9% of us could not replicate that sort of experience for a lot of the conversations that we have when we're talking about our organizations. And people say, oh yeah, we're thinking about doing X, and be able to bring that perfect picture, that perfect example.
Amazingly, your organization probably has people on staff to do this full time. They're called the marketing department. And ironically, money spent on marketing is throwaway dollars and never gets reused. The vast majority of marketing expenses get used at an event, posters get thrown away, things get printed and they're out of date. In this type of environment, it's about managing these marketing materials, these slides. The marketing people end up curating a library of slides that tell your whole corporate story. Every presentation's a story. Every slide's a scene. If you can shuffle them into new stories, people can make more compelling pitches on your behalf. So, and this will be a blatant plug for Shufflrr. That is exactly what Shufflrr does. It allows you to visualize all your files. So if you upload a PowerPoint, you see all the slides. You don't have to open that PowerPoint and copy and paste. You just see it. When you see the slides you need, you drag it to your slide tray and it saves. It's that simple. A video is just a full screen slide. Pull up that video, drag it to slide 2, hit save. A PDF is just a full screen slide. If you manage a library of slides, meaning if you had 250 slides to tell your whole corporate message, no one would ever sit through it. That's the death by PowerPoint. Right. But if you treated them as 25 10-slide presentations, one about us, one about the leadership, one about our offices, one about our products, one about our services, some about our case studies, someone in your organization, if your organization is 3 people or 30,000 people, could go to this library and say, I'm speaking to someone in the plumbing industry tomorrow. Let me bring up our piping contract that we successfully did. I know that slide was done. I know it was done once. Marketing made it look good. It's sitting there. I search piping and there it is. I drag it in. That's slide 15. Yeah. Think of all the time people say bringing these presentations together takes hours. If you could go to one place, pick out 15 slides like items in your Amazon cart, hit save, and you've got 95% of your presentation made, you're ready to go look at the client and actually tell your message as opposed to being Mozart on PowerPoint or in presentations.
You know what I'm hearing, though? I'm hearing, to me, what that sounds like is it sounds like a mindset shift. It sounds like people have to start thinking about the discussions that they could have as stories. They need to start thinking about capturing those and that capturing them and curating them. That I think that process can be kind of difficult for folks. Yeah. I mean, daunting is the word. Yeah. Because it can seem like overwhelming a bit to say, okay, where do I even start? I could start, I have this huge list of different stories. I don't even know where to begin. And therefore I don't begin. So how do we avoid that? What do we do to get to the point where we're actually in action, where we're moving?
I'll tell you a story. How does that sound? I'll tell you a story. Nobody likes to be asked to clean their room.
Yes.
Right? You want to have it nice. Go clean your room and we can start. And you're like, oh God, and you never start cleaning your room. Ask a kid to clean their room. But same thing as you just asked right here. You have all these presentations, marketing V3, marketing V5, the Jan 6 picnic, all in areas that you've used. They're all out there and you don't want to pick through them and clean it up. That's a disgusting job. I hate to say it that way, but so if you flipped it around and say, don't clean your room. Okay, just go in your room. There's 5 pairs of pants on the floor. Pick out your best one and bring it out here and we'll put it in your pants pile. Go in there and pick out your best shirt and put it down there. Go in and pick out your best leadership slide and let's compare them. And there's 20 of them. Oh, this is the best one. Let's bring it out. Shufflrr provides structured storytelling to help you do this. Who we are, what we do, how we do it. Who we are has about us, locations, our offices, leadership slides. If you have 15 managers or 15 people in your leadership and you have your best slide, once you have your best slide, you can then add 5 more slides for the other executives in your company. Now they're in the library. You take these and you put them in a published library. This published library is now available to everyone out. And now it's a different mindset. You're right. You're not a fire drill for Thursday afternoon because you have a podium at the hotel. It is now you have a consistent published library that's for use for everyone in your global organization to pick and pull and publish from all the time. It makes everyone more efficient. It makes them more concise. It makes them more compliant. It makes them on message. It helps them be trained for what's going on, because if your company merged or acquired another company, your marketing department could put up 7 or 10 slides addressing that, and your people in the field have the actual knowledge as it's said, as opposed to react to what the newspapers or social media would say about the merger. And you can control your message. I want to take this step back a little bit, because this is about storytelling. And I don't know if you know who David Ogilvy is. He is considered the founder of advertising, Ogilvy Mather and such, and whatever, 70, 80 years ago. He convinced the corporate world that if you gave him all your advertising, marketing, promotional money, sales money, you will get better creative, better marketing, better communications, and in turn, better placement. And in turn, you'll sell more widgets. And this was the birth of the advertising industry. And they looked at the mediums of communications that said there's TV, there's radio, there's billboards, there's print. And after a few times, there was the web, digital. And they looked at those and they said, we need a strategy for each one. And they looked at, let's say, TV. One strategy, the Super Bowl. They realized if they got a Hollywood actor in a exotic location and a funny script with a Hollywood director, you're going to sell more widgets. And they put it on the Super Bowl. They have done that strategy to manage that medium over and over 58 years, to the point where 15 seconds is worth $5 million or some unreasonable amount of money.
Yeah.
That is one strategy for one medium of communications. TV's a medium, radio, billboards, print. There's one medium left out that all human beings have used since cave walls, and that is presentations. Presentations have never had a strategy for management. Think about it. Every university is built around lecture halls, which are built around presentations.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start thinking of the depth of them, even billboards are a series of slides that are presentations.
Yeah.
And that is what the big difference here is. This is about managing a medium that has never been managed and has eaten up so many resources and so much time, and has separated good salespeople from average ones because they're better at presentations than they are at selling. Whatever it might be, this levels the field.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, I haven't really thought about it that way, but I think you're right, and that is fascinating to think that there's an area that hasn't been explored and exploited and totally developed more, when it has such potential to do so much for people and has for such a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, you think about it. Presentations are more important than they get credit for. Everyone loves to hate them. But when someone's looking at your product, service, whatever they're doing, some of the, if you look at the sales funnel, so to speak, a nice, professional jargon, they look online, they see what people say, they see Yelp reviews, then they look at your website. They know that's your message and how you're crafting it. They look at your ads, they get closer, they read case studies. And it ultimately boils down to the presentation.
Yeah.
When I'm one-on-one talking to you, do you trust me or do you trust the billboard over my shoulder? If you don't trust my message, no matter how good that billboard is, it doesn't matter. And if the billboard doesn't gather trust, but you trust me, I might be able to make the sale anyway. So presentation, communication, storytelling, it's all wrapped up together.
That's an interesting point you make about trust, because definitely, when you think about the conversations that we're seeing about deep fakes and about can we trust, what's posted on Twitter? Can we trust what's posted on our social media? Can we trust the newspapers? Trust is definitely something when it comes in communication, that's definitely something that's under attack. And so in light of that, how do you think that we approach our storytelling, being mindful of the fact that we are in a society and in a place in our history where trust is something that's not necessary, not that it was ever a given, but it's definitely something that people are holding out and feeling like messaging is a little suspect right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I agree with that a lot, actually. I don't know if this is really a word, but It's about genuinity. It's about being genuine. It's about, you cut through it when you're genuine, when you understand and you show an understanding, you show an empathy, a connection on it. Storytelling makes that happen. I mean, Shakespeare was a great storyteller, and look at how far 500 years later, still dominating what's going on with good stories about human being and environment. Every product has a reason for a human being to have anxious, and it solves. So if you can tell a good story, here, think of if we were at a plumbing convention and I stood up in front of it and I said, you see that? And I would show a picture of a pipe dripping, and I would magnify the drip, 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 drip. And everyone's a plumber out there and everyone sells plumbing and stuff like that. And I said, you hear that? That's the cash register ringing.
Yeah.
A leaky pipe is their job, is the reason they're there. It's simplistic. It connects it. It gets the attention, and they're like, oh, you're right. We have that in common. That's genuine. I was at the house the other day, and boy, were they complaining about the leaky pipe. And by the way, that put my kid through college, that leaky pipe.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. I was just trying to, pull something out.
I think it is. And I think, again, it goes back to like, how do we get people to think like that? Because even I think that with marketing, we sometimes get lost in we have great tools. We have fantastic tools that are available to us today to tell better and better stories. So, again, why are we so bad why are we doing such a crappy job so many times, at telling these stories?
Actually, we're not.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
You're only telling you're telling bad stories when you're forced to tell them.
Okay.
Think of every meme you've ever seen. Every one of those is a slide. If your corporate story, your corporate slides were all memes, any one of them you could put up there, and it causes debate, it causes discussion, it causes you to question what's going on. That's storytelling. It is so perfected that people make billions of these things and they blow up because people see something in it and go, that is so human. I get it. That shows the hypocrisy of the politician. That shows the stupidity of the cat. That shows the, I can't believe that just happened type of thing. But it's that moment you remember. It told a story. It caused emotional change. It caused you to think. Once you cause someone to think and start absorbing that information, then you've properly told a story. If I'm just giving you information because you have to write it down and get it out the door and verbally vomit it and regurgitate it an hour later, that doesn't do anything. But if I give you a story that you go home and you tell it to your kids and your kids go, wow, that's great. I affected you. I was a part of your life. You carry whatever I shared with you on with you, and it has value to you. Think of those great stories that, your grandpa told you, or someone that you like to repeat, and you get value out of repeating it because the person understood it and they took something from it, and you felt like you gave them something. You felt like you educated, you felt like you had a connection, you felt like you had an intellectual intimacy with that person, and therefore you carry them a lot further with you for the rest of your life, possibly.
So what do you think that we could all do better right now? Like if you had one piece of advice that you would give to folks to create more compelling stories, to get at sales right now, what would you say? I mean, obviously use Shufflrr, but like other than
I would say use Shufflrr. I would say
Shufflrr.
Corporate storytelling and bring it all in there. I find at this point, I sold a long time life, is listen and ask questions to let the audience, your person, learn why your solution is right for them. They don't need you to tell them. They need to recognize it because you put enough ideas up on the board. Ideas up on the board are not words. Ideas are memes. And if you give something that shows them that, hey, wow, I can't believe that's happening. Think of every cartoon as kind of a meme in a way. But that's what brings it out. It changes the difference. It's telling versus selling. Telling is Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah.
Mm-hmm.
Selling is engaging you because I understand something about what's important to you, why you're there, what knowledge are you looking for? How can I help you learn for yourself why my product is good?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because if
I
I
feel
tell
like
you it's good, then, you know, it's just me talking at you.
I feel like that's sort of a mind shift for folks who might look at a word. Now, I'm thinking about the people who are out there who really sort of struggle with the word selling. They struggle with this concept because they feel like it's over the top. They feel like it's something that they don't want to force anyone to do anything that they don't feel comfortable doing, and they sort of push away from this idea. At which point, I would say, well, but you're here. You're listening to this. You're wanting to learn about it for some reason. But for those people who really kind of push away this concept, you know, I think something that you're talking about here is changing the way that we think about selling, you know?
Yeah, it's a little bit. I don't know.
It's, I
It's,
mean,
you know,
an
a lot of
engaging
people,
story.
yeah, an engaging story, but it's about understanding the why versus the how. If you sit there and tell someone how, you're not
Hmm.
storytelling. You need to do this way, this way. But if you tell them why, wow, if you put that strong, look at how big the building's going to be. And by the way, it's going to be so impressive that they're going to give you the key to the city.
Yeah.
Suddenly, wow, I'm involved in that. And all I was doing was selling concrete. Meanwhile, you think you're getting the key to the city, and I'm just, you know, I'm just pointing out where it goes. If you know why someone's doing it, why does someone build a building?
Hmm.
A lot of
Yeah.
it's money, but most of it's prestige and ego and crap like that. That goes into a lot of the things. But when you get at the why someone is there and what they're looking for, and you let them see the how so that they embrace the how. So it's them collecting the how up so that they can take the how back to the other people in the office and say, this is how you do it. Because the
Hmm.
other people in the office know why. It's the
So
why,
there's
how, these two things.
one of the things that so I love this conversation, and I love how willing you are to sort of go back and forth with me in whatever direction it happens to be. So I hope you don't mind when I throw this very specific question at you, which is, you know, associations. This is association chat.
Mm-hmm.
Associations are really they're you know, an interesting sort of entity because, you know, they're representing all kinds of different industries and professions and sciences and all kinds of stuff. What are some examples that you can share with me of times that you know that associations have used Shufflrr in order to tell better stories for sales?
Yeah. A good example is the Hawaiian Tourism Bureau.
Okay.
They're charged with making Hawaii more appreciative life. And, you know, obviously you think Hawaii, obviously I want to go there and that type of stuff. But the Bureau, their things that they're challenged with is letting people know that traveling from the States or from Japan is really not as difficult as you might think it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
knowing that they can use something like Shufflrr for a consistent message for the people that are, they don't directly work for the tourism association,
Hmm.
but they may be in a community that has a big group going out that direction, or has
Yeah.
a escape, you know what I mean, or some sort of corporate thing that goes that way, and ensuring that people around the planet have a consistent set of discussion about what's being done. Is the new waterfront done and built? Does it have a convention hall? Do you have a video of the fly through that shows
Right.
me that the new Marriott has triple suites and things like that? If
I
that's
think,
put
yeah.
together on the tourism bureau, everyone within the industry who are in all sorts of tourism, whether you own a hotel or whatever, or your Liberty Travel, there's a benefit from it. Someone comes in, I want to go to Hawaii. The tourism bureau, there's their set of slides. They got 20 slides. I'm going to pick 8 of them to show you.
I love that. I know that associations right now, a lot of associations have been worried a little bit. Association leaders have been worried about holding on to their members because at a time when there is, this question of, what is the value of where I'm spending my dollar and what's the value of my membership? And especially when we don't have this in-person touch point, honestly, over the past year with COVID-19, it's forced a lot of associations to really do double time on not just trying to make up for lost revenue, but also to try to continue to prove their value when you can't do that in person connecting with folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with them, how could they use something like Shufflrr to better tell their stories? What would you advise them to do?
I would start by cleaning your room. Collect up your last 50 slides, videos, put them all in one place, and let's pick out the best slides and assemble them into a good story. We help you through it. We get it going. One thing I do know, this is a big kind of philosophical, is content is unifying. People go to one central place to get their content. You find yourself on a Google Doc with 2 or 3 people typing away, doing different sections of it.
Yeah.
Content of your presentations can be unifying as well. If people are all getting their information from one location and there's feedback and there's an understanding of who's using what slide in what order, there's now an intelligence coming back from that business communication. The medium of communication, presentations, once you have a slide library and people are dragging and dropping, making new presentations, now I know who's using what slide, in what order, what's the most popular slide. James is the worst salesperson while Kiki's the best. She always talks about the benefits. I talk about the history of the organization. You can very easily, in a few months, you'll know, James, let's start talking about the benefits. Let's get out of the organization. Yeah. Or you'll see that Carrie Scrugg video causes the contract to come out and get signed.
Wow.
Once we know that, we know how to start going through it and get them primed up and ready. You don't give that video before you've gone through your numbers and told them what the price is, because after the video, the price doubles. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain amount. The other video they used was Muhammad Ali shaking, lighting it up in Atlanta, and the unsteadiness of his hand after being the great gold medalist who beat everyone up.
Yeah.
That's another one of those moments that move people. And the sponsor goes, that's a moment in history. That's more important than the million eyes. That's actually worth 10 million eyes. Now my budget's doubled.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It totally does. I mean, I do think there are such powerful stories that,
I've got a good one for you.
What is
Here's
it?
a good association. We've done this for several universities.
Okay.
The Alumni Association, they're charged with raising money.
Oh, yeah.
What's the difference between going to Kiki and saying, can we get a $5,000 donation? And you might be sitting there going, I don't know the depth of money someone has, but when you're giving to college, you're giving emotionally. You're giving to a past. You're giving back. So what's the difference between you giving $5,000 and $10,000? Maybe it's the video of the football game that you were on the sidelines when you were 20 years old and the winner won the Heisman Trophy and everyone went, yay! Yeah. And they pulled that video clip out and suddenly the hair went up on the back of your neck and your checkbook came out for 10,000 instead of 5.
Yeah.
That's huge. Think of someone who made $1 billion and you just moved them from the moment they were in the dorm room trying to make it, scrapping for $1. And now you're saying, fund the new opera school for 50 million. And they might go, God, 75 million's okay. And I'm just saying, but those are the type of associations that can benefit from a good slide library. Because a slide library, you have a curated, calculated messaging that's available at the moment of contact. And that's what, you graduated in 85? I knew that's when the dorm burned down. Boom, there's a news story of the dorm burning down. You're talking about the night they were shivering outside. Suddenly you connected with them that they never knew was going to happen.
Oh, man. I mean, it's so true. It's so true, and But as you were talking, I was thinking, I was shifting back into, okay, so if I'm hearing this and I'm thinking about how the word library, how do I go about beginning to organize this? I mean, one thing, we talked about earlier is getting the best of, like, what's your best story like this? And I think that helps to get you on the path, but what are some of first of all, what are some of the hangups that you run into with folks who, I don't know, are they trying to categorize too much? Is that what usually happens? Are they not? What do you usually happen, or what do you usually see that gets in the way? Because I can tell you this, I've never run into an association that doesn't have a ton of content. Like content, they usually have a ton of like lots and lots of content. That's
but
not
it
the
never
problem.
gets to the point of use.
Yes,
Of value. That's
yes,
the point. That's
yes.
to cut the line for when that content is valuable. That's what I'll take a step back. How do you do it? You have to look at your presentation not as a one-off flat slideshow, but as a structured content, a hierarchy, an information architecture, if you will. Let's just say I gave you 4 folders: who we are, what we do, how we do it, case studies.
Yeah.
In who we are, I would put the first presentation about us. The first slide might say founded 2003, or you know what I mean? The second slide might be growth. The third one might be, we merged here. The fourth one might be our new president. The fifth one, the second presentation, PowerPoint, might be called leadership. And it has your organization structure, and then it has individual slides of the background and people of your leadership. The next one might be locations. Those are maps of the world with a pin going on Paris and LA and New York, because that's where your offices are. Then you go to what we do, and you have your products and services, and you have a presentation on your product. You might have a video of your printing press, or of the cruise ship you're selling, or the hotel you're dealing with, or whatever it might be. Starbucks is a client. They sell coffee. They sell the coffee experience. They don't sell a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
They sell the entire experience, and you buy it for your entire property. So everything Starbucks, from what's in the hotel room to what's in the self-serve downstairs to the full service shop. That's the coffee experience. That's storytelling. And when they put it together and collate it that way, and if you think about organizing what we do, how we do it, and put these presentations in there, i.e. collect them in one spot, clean your room, not by cleaning your room, but by picking the best ones out and putting it in this new structure, you will have a structured library that people know where to find slides and how to repurpose them. And once you start doing it, someone in your marketing department starts watching it regularly because it's a published medium. On May 25th at 3:38 p.m., this library of slides was published, and anyone could have used them in any public case. You might go in and change the About Us slides at 5 o'clock today, and anyone using it at 5:01 is updated with the new information. And when you think of it as a published medium, a strategy for managing the communication channel, you suddenly that's the whole difference. Yeah. And since no one has done this, and there's no one to look at and say, gee whiz, GE did this so well, and you should be following Elon Musk does this, and you have to do it too. Since no one's heard that, no one has confidence in it.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say that. We have, dozens of enterprise clients on a huge level using this on a global stake. So it's not a lightweight strategy by any stretch of the means. But a few dozen global companies using it is a far cry from the 5,000 that will be in the next 2 or 3 years. Because if you tell the C-suite, you can manage presentations and know who's saying what to whom across your 10,000 salespeople around the globe, your CEO is going to look at the chief marketing officer and go, what's our strategy for presentations? I got a strategy for TV, for radio, for print, and all these. Why don't we have one? And once that happens, the whole world changes. And I'll do my plug right now. We've written a book called Presentation Management, The Strategy for Enterprise Content. And it's about managing content in a presentation fashion. All of your slides, your videos are just objects in your library, and you should be able to shuffle them into new presentations quickly and easily. So it's a
Presentation
strategy.
management.
That's correct.
Association Chat Book Club members, you should be listening to this. This might have to go on our list.
It's
So,
available on Amazon, and you can get a digital copy through other areas on our website and stuff.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I definitely want to explore that some more, and I'll have to do that. Maybe we might have to bring you back and maybe do an
I'm happy
additional discussion around that. But you know, how this is something that I've asked in a different sort of way in other interviews. But how has the impact, like how has COVID-19 impacted your approach to what you're trying to do with Shufflrr over the past, over a year now? Has it changed based on, how people are working, meeting, living, selling, communicating?
Well,
Has
the
anything
answer to that is
changed?
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, if I said no, I would be a flat out liar.
Yeah.
But for my own company, right when it happened, we lost 20% of our business. We had a
Mm.
strong convention type business where speakers come to rooms and they collect the presentations and distribute them out and things like that. And
Right.
we have a lot of travel companies, hotel chains and cruise ships, things of that nature, heads in beds. And they all have associations as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a bunch. They pulled back. Many of them, we offered the service for free through the year.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones we did that came back. But, the convention business was like, we got no business. Even if it's free, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with that, our pharmaceutical companies suddenly dug in and said they have a need to communicate amongst their scientists to address this. And we have, Roche and Takeda and big companies that bit down hard, and our big companies grew significantly because the concept of keeping people on the same page and singing off the same sheet of music when they're no longer in the office suddenly had much higher value. New customers didn't come in. That was the hard part. I mean, people weren't taking risks, but the ones who already embraced us understood the value in it, and it really sunk in deeper. And for us as a company, it made us recognize where our real value equation is, and we're now running towards it much faster than we probably would have without the shock of COVID.
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. It's really fascinating to hear these stories because there were so many unexpected. You couldn't have planned for the way that people's behaviors would change or something like that based off of what happened. And so, I think that one of the things that you just said, the making sure that everyone's singing off the same sheet of music, that's a fascinating use case for someone wanting to, use your solution, because I think that that's the one thing that I've been hearing consistently. Well, not the only thing, but it's been consistent throughout every industry, throughout all kinds of different sorts of working setups and stuff. Is how do we all get to where we're singing off the same page of music, especially now that people are working from home or they're working in a hybrid situation and the communication has been a little bit more strained. What that looks like in the way that people are communicating, I think has changed, is continuing to change. Mm-hmm. And looking for those solutions has definitely become a priority for a lot of us.
Yeah, I think you hit on something a bigger issue there for what's going on with what we do here is that there's a lot of technology solutions.
Yeah.
There's Zoom, there's GoToMeeting, there's WebEx. Everyone's got a share type of thing going on, and I'm bringing your desktop to me, and right now we're on StreamYard or something. You know what I mean? There's a whole variety of things.
Yeah.
But even though you have all those choices out there, there isn't a how should I say, a strategy to manage communications. Those are all tech solutions, not a communication strategy leveraging tech.
Yeah.
This is a one-off. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, we're chatting.
Yeah.
But it's not leveraging the fact that we're creating media right now. We're creating a TV show. Why shouldn't that TV show be leveraged in 5 different ways? Just like you go online and see a little short clip from some Friends or Third Rock from the Sun or something, it's a secondary use of that medium. It's a communication management system. It's taking it from an ordinary feature function to a systemic way to keep people communicating off the same sheet of music. The systemic way is a published slide library that people reference to help reinforce any conversation they're having about your company.
It's so interesting. Published slide library. I've got to actually put this phrase down because as you're talking, I'm thinking about how I would organize the media, the images, the screenshots of things that I have if I were to purposefully think about the stories I want to tell in the future that I'm most likely to be that are important to me, that are important stories to tell in the most important situations. Yeah. And you know, I just haven't really organized my communications or my thinking around things that way. So it's interesting. I'm like over here to this side, like
think of it this way. Prior to Uber, all of us just got in line when we got off the airport. We got in line at the taxi stand until Uber came out and said, "Listen, just take it, swipe, and they're going to be waiting for you." You never got in that taxi stand again, except if you got there and it happened to be empty. It's a change of mindset. But once that happens, you don't ever do that again. You just drop it and move forward. This has that type of effect once it goes into play.
I love that. I'm going to have to go and look at every single resource that you have over on your site so that I can figure out how to do this. I need to organize my thinking about it and become a story hunter, because if I can go do that, then maybe I can get all of these visual elements so that I too can explain, you know, like at the perfect moment, you know.
We help all of our clients do that regardless. We give free consulting. We say it's 4 hours, but the reality is once you get to that point in understanding it, you don't really need to talk to us anymore. You understand how you're communicating and what's going on. It makes a difference. The other thing that I'm going to say here is that under 10 users are free in Shufflrr. So it's a one site you can set up, you can start using it, you can manage your small and mid-sized business, you can do it for yourself, you can work through it. And once you get to that point, if you have 10 people using it, this is one of the things we learned during COVID, is that if people don't learn this stuff, you'll never get the big companies to grow bigger.
Right.
Our money comes from those big companies. So as such, I can continue to help bring people in and learn this methodology of communication, and that will yield more people doing it. Because if you think about it, if you're in a company and you're like, there's this cool thing that'll help me with PowerPoint and help us with presentations, and it's only $100 a month, they'll go, okay, you're putting your reputation on the line. But if you can go do it and start putting it together and get that story together and get the library, and suddenly you structured a corporate story about your company better than anyone else. And then you say, hey, Bob, let me show you what I've done. Because I know in training, if you make a good slide library that answers those questions, you show it to those salespeople once and you give them the link. Within 5 minutes, they'll be like, that's where I go for presentations. Every slide's there. I can get out in 5 minutes and it's ready. It's done. No one wants to open 5 PowerPoints and copy and paste and try to make a video work and have an This lets your marketing do that. And it allows you to edit a simple edit, like the agenda page, the title page, an exit page. Put those structures around it so that, like, our thing today, you had a bumper in the beginning. I saw that. Why isn't that a slide before slide 1 in a different presentation somewhere else when you're in front of an audience?
Right.
That bumper is a slide.
Well, I mean, right now, I work with, one of the things I do is I work with a consulting group called International, and we put on something called the CEO Symposium.
Hmm.
And this is something that they've done long before I came along, but it's something that I do, that I'm doing with them now. And one of the things that we do is we come together and we are pulling from different slide decks and stuff and updating and rearranging. But let me tell you, this pain that you're speaking of downloading multiple slide decks and like doing all kinds of, that's not unfamiliar to me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
very
yeah.
familiar with that,
We
So
can help there.
it would be an easier task if there were a better way, and apparently there is. So,
Mhm.
well, okay. So one of the things that I do with every guest is I ask the question of the week. In an association chat, there's a question of the week. It changes, and people have to, reveal a little bit about themselves. The goal through the question of the week is to offer a safer kind of way that's not completely risk-free, but low-risk way to be a little vulnerable, to share a little bit about yourself. So
Are
the
you setting
question
me up?
of this week, oh, I know. The
Oh my
question of
God.
this week, can you remember a moment when you were lost in imagination? Share about it. And this
Oh
can
my God.
be professional, this can be personal, this can be whatever, but can you remember a
Um,
moment?
oh my, gosh. How about this? I'll go back to youth,
Okay.
and I'll say I was good in math when I was young,
Okay.
and I had a crush on Sweet Susie in the 3 rows over in the front thing, and she used to flip her hair over and over again. I failed math that semester.
You did not. You did not. I love
Yeah,
it.
I,
You were
I, I had
lost
to
in
bail
thought.
myself out, but
You were lost in the flipping of the hair.
I couldn't sit in class and pretend to participate. I was 16 years old in high school, just like going out of my mind, and I
Flip.
was lost in imagination. And
Flip.
obviously, well, it's just it sounds. You see, that's storytelling. You
I
saw
love
the
it.
visual. I could see looking down, and she had the Farrah Fawcett flip going on, and I
Flip.
was sitting right back over there going, 3 + 3 is. So in any case, I don't know if that suits, but
It
that is
totally
lost.
does.
You know.
I love that. I love that. That's a great story. I love that
Okay,
story.
that's just a little bit of human connection there.
Well, so if people want to go ahead and connect with you, is LinkedIn the best way? Is that the best way for them to go
LinkedIn is
ahead?
a great way.
LinkedIn.
Coming in directly through Shufflrr is even better because on LinkedIn, a lot of people come in. When you come in through
Yep.
Shufflrr, you probably have a clear direction, question, something you're referring to, and that's what draws people in.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. I've learned so much. I've learned there's a better way to go about telling my stories with visual support. And now I need to go explore all of this. I need to go and
Okay,
explore so I can do this myself. Thank you so much.
great. Thank you, Kiki. It's been wonderful being here.
So, what did you think about all of this? Did you learn a lot from James and his stories? And can you believe that story at the end? It was fantastic. Listen, if you have questions, that's a good thing. If you have questions, you should go and explore, because in association chat, we always say that you should keep asking questions to learn every day. Because why? Because as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.